What is up, guys? Welcome to my review for Titans Season 1. This is the first review of mine of any DC TV show that isn't a part of the Arrowverse, so this might be a little bit different, but as those season reviews, I go over the standout episodes of the season, which in this season it only really had 11 episodes, so it will also only have a small amount of standout episodes, but those standout episodes include episode 2, which is titled Hawk and Dove, episode 5, titled Together, as well as episode 6, titled Jason Todd. With that in mind, let's get into the review for Titans Season 1. So since this is actually the first season of not only this show, but the entire universe, which is the Titansverse, it had to do a lot of things like introduce us to characters and build up the universe, and I definitely do think it did a pretty good job at introducing us to this universe. I am definitely very interested in all of the superheroes that we are going to see later in the rest of this universe. That being said, it probably should have taken a little bit more time of introducing us to these many characters, because if you could really compare it to the Arrowverse, which introduced in its first season 2 superheroes, and one of them was kind of an anti-hero, maybe even a villain, while other superheroes only became superheroes later on the show, or were introduced later on the show, or spin-off shows, and that was pretty good. I did like how that universe was built up, while the Titansverse definitely did not waste any time introducing us to not only a bunch of characters, but also a bunch of mentions to other characters in the background, mentions to Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman appearing, but not really. So many superheroes and supervillains appeared in this season. This season definitely did a much better job of introducing us to this universe than, say, the DCEU, but I don't think it did as good a job as, say, the Arrowverse, or obviously the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Still, though, a pretty good season in terms of building up this universe, a pretty good start to this universe. But getting back to the season, the first episode introduces us to all 4 of the characters, although Beast Boy definitely gets just basically one scene, and that is reflective of his role in this season. He's kind of an afterthought. He wasn't really introduced until episode 4, which was more about showing and showcasing the Doom Patrol, who did overshadow him. He didn't get an arc till episode 7, and that arc was incomplete by the end, because he never really got over the fact that he killed that guy as a tiger. Also, the fact that he could only turn into a tiger is pretty disappointing. All that being said, I do think Beast Boy is a very entertaining character. The actor is great. They just need to do more with the character, and they need to give him more animals to turn into. But then Dick Grayson is a great version of the character. The actor can maybe open up his acting range a little bit. He always acts the same in every scene. Really, it works most of the time, but it can definitely not work for certain scenes. His costume, although, looks incredible. His arc was, like the rest of the Titans, incomplete by the end, but it was also incredibly compelling, like stepping away from the Robin role because he doesn't want to embrace the darkness. All of that was very compelling this season. It was great. The actor did a great job in that story, but obviously it was incomplete, and not only that, they created a new storyline by the end. As for Raven and Starfire, for Raven, I think the actress is pretty good, and she has a pretty compelling arc this season. She is basically the main focus of at least the tension and the conflict in the season. Not really the main focus, the main character of the season, but she is the main focus around the fact that Trigon is kind of the main villain, I guess. Not really, but Raven, the actress, is good. Her arc, again, is incomplete, but good, which is, I think I'm going to say that for every character except for Beast Boy, who didn't really have an arc for the most part. But for obviously Raven and Robin, their arcs were pretty good. In fact, they were great right up until that last episode, where they were never completed. But the only one of the Titans who actually had some sort of complete storyline is Starfire. Starfire, originally, when I saw the casting on all the set photos, I was definitely not excited for this character. I still don't love the character. I think the actress definitely does not look the part. Her powers are so not normal compared to like Starfire's powers, which here she can shoot fire, and that's basically it. Also, she's charged up by the sun. Not really anything to do with Starfire's powers, in at least where I know them from, which is the Teen Titans cartoon, and basically any other cartoon that I've seen Starfire in. She can fly, and she can shoot green energy bolts out of her hands and eyes, which she cannot do in the show. Instead, it's just fire, and she can't fly, so that is definitely disappointing. Also, the way she dresses is just so ridiculously stupid. That being said, the actress herself definitely does a pretty good job in the role. The writing for the character is not bad, is not half bad, and the arc is the only one of the 4 arcs of these of the Titans really that is complete, because you can argue that by the time she remembers everything and gets over the fact that she wants to kill Raven, that is the ending to that storyline. They can continue that into season 2, but I would argue out of all the 4 Titans, she is the only one who has a complete storyline. As for the actual team, as for the actual Titans, I do think they had a pretty great dynamic. They really bounce off each other really well. Their powers work together in a fight scene really well. The sad thing about that is we really didn't get much of that all the way up to episode 5. It was all about building them up as a team, so that we didn't really get much of the dynamic of the team together, because they only really came together fully in episode 4 at the end, and then episode 5 we got to see them together. But then episode 6, it all fell apart when Robin went to Gotham, which I loved that episode, but the Titans weren't really together again after that. In the asylum, they were separated for the most part. Then Robin left the team in episode 8, and they never really came back together for more than one scene, so that was something that was pretty disappointing in this season. But again, the dynamic of the team was really good whenever we got to see them together. So a big portion of my reviews for seasons do talk about the main villain for a portion of it, and this season's main villain was Trigon. So first of all, I don't really like the fact that Trigon, the biggest big bad of the Teen Titans ever, was the main villain of the first season. That was a stupid decision, because now going up from here, they can't really do that. Like characters like Deathstroke, characters like Terra or whatever, none of these characters are nearly as powerful as Trigon, and this is something the cartoon did a pretty good job at doing. They really built up Trigon as a threat throughout the first, I think, 4 seasons of the show. In those 4 seasons, they faced off against characters like Deathstroke, Terra, and Brother Blood, and that all led up to a much more powerful threat in Trigon. And what this season did is use Trigon immediately in the first season, and it sucks, because not only could they not really go down from here, they just didn't do Trigon well either. They could have waited a couple more years and then really show Trigon as the true form he's supposed to show in, which is his demon form, which is supposed to be CGI, or should be CGI for the most part. All that being said, Trigon is barely a main villain in the season. He didn't really appear, or he wasn't even mentioned or directly mentioned, name dropped, until the second to last episode of the season. And when he was revealed, it's not like he was a big part of the season up until this point. If he was like behind the scenes up until this point, that would have been cool, but he definitely was not. And then he didn't really get much screen time. I would say his total screen time in this season was maybe 5 minutes, so that's a big disappointing part of this season. There was really no main villain, and the main villain we got, which was Trigon, was a very minimal. He only got 5 minutes of screen time. He was very disappointing, and he was a bad choice for the first main villain of a Teen Titans or Titans TV show. That being said, I want to talk about the structure of this season, and I know I am being pretty negative so far in this review, at least with like the main villain and how incomplete this season was, and that's just because the season finale left a very bad taste in my mouth for this season. But for this portion of the review, I want to talk about the entirety of the season. I do think that the season started off, in the first episode at least, a little bit mediocre and ended pretty mediocrely, but throughout the actual season, between the second episode and the 10th episode, it was going rather well. I do like the dynamic of the team was being built up rather well. All the introductions to all these characters like the Doom Patrol, characters like Jason Todd and Hawk and Dove, and characters in the background like Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. All of that was a lot of fun to watch. All of those episodes between 2 and 10, they were so much more fun than any of the trailers led on. I think the trailers were mostly from part 1 for episode 1. I mean, and those trailers were definitely pretty representative of the first episode, but then the show took a very big switch from episode 2 through 10, where it was so much more fun than I expected it to be. It was also so much less dark, which I didn't really like about the trailers. I don't really want to see a dark Teen Titans. I mean, this season is pretty dark compared to any other version of the Teen Titans or the Titans, but still, it wasn't like crazy, edgy, gritty, dark like the trailers let on. So that was something that exceeded my expectations in this season, and I do think that the structure of the season between episode 2 and 10 was really, really strong. Again, the first episode was not a huge, big complaint of mine, but it was a little mediocre, and the season ended pretty horribly with an incredible episode, which is such a weird thing to say. The episode was a great episode, but it was a bad season finale, so that's definitely a low point of the season, which is the first and last episode, but everything in between, which is the majority of the episodes, is a huge high point of the season. If you look at my standout episodes, 2, 5, and 6, all of them are between those episodes. Also, I really liked episode 7, and in general, this season, for the most part, was really, really good. It sucks, though, that it was ruined a little bit, or the whole season was soured by that ending. So a couple more things to add on to this review. I have seen a couple videos online talking about why this season just doesn't look good, like aesthetically, and that's just because they have this blue tint that they have on for most of the season, and it gets very, very jarring. If you just take any screenshot, it's going to be so dark and blue, and that's definitely something I didn't like about the season, which was the look. I think they tried to improve it over the season, because if you look at the finale, the scenes in this finale, it looks really good. The cinematography is on point, and I don't think there's much of a blue tint, so that's definitely something I think the season improved on over the course of the season. But then there's also the fight scenes, which for the most part were really, really great. They were incredibly brutal, which is a little much, especially for a character like Robin, but aside from that, they were great. The cinematography was great. The blood, for the most part, looked a little fake for some reason, but I do think that the fight scenes are definitely good enough. But in conclusion, this season had a very large amount of flaws that are definitely not easy to look past, and I do think that if they just really work on those flaws, make a better second season than the first one, this can turn out to be an incredible DC TV shows. It really has the characters and the universe to back up a pretty great show. As for now, they have some flaws in the first season that I can't look past, especially in the score, but I did enjoy most of the season. I do think that they did a pretty great job of introducing us to these characters and this world, so I will give Titans Season 1 an 8.2 out of 10. But anyway, let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, as well as in the poll in the top right corner of the video. If you want to see more season reviews, specifically the Arrowverse season reviews, the link will be in the top right corner of the video to a playlist where I review every season of Arrow, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl, as well as some Marvel Netflix seasons from quite a long time ago. But if you want to see any of that, link will be in the top right corner of the video. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching.